Reactions to the word nuclear have dramatically changed over the past 80 years.
Clean, silent, plentiful.
A better world for all mankind.
Massive injuries and evacuation.
But now nuclear power seems on the verge of making a comeback.
Nuclear power generation, like it or not, will be the most viable option for most countries.
Are we headed towards the nuclear-powered future envisioned in the 1950s? Or will this, too, end in disaster? It's easy to forget in today's world of solar, wind, and hydroelectric just how big of a deal nuclear power is. Just 1 kilogram of uranium fuel can produce as much energy as 3,000 tons of coal without emitting carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases. Unlike wind or solar, a single nuclear reactor is enough to power an entire city, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and regardless of the weather. But while the adoption of other alternative energies has grown in recent years, the percentage of nuclear power has stagnated. Today, nuclear generates a mere 9% of the world's electricity, on par with solar and wind power, yet far behind much dirtier energy sources like coal, oil, and gas. But recent world events have many nations looking for alternative sources of energy.
The strongest argument for nuclear power today is energy security. And we've seen not just in Europe, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but the Hormuz crisis, more governments will be thinking about what do we do to make sure the lights stay on.
Is the world on the verge of a second nuclear age? Here's how the numbers stack up. In 2025, nuclear reactors worldwide generated a record 2,859 terawatt-hours of electricity. As of March of this year, 31 countries currently use nuclear energy as part of their electrical grid, according to the World Nuclear Association. Another 10 nations are in the process of building their first nuclear power plants. Right now, there are 441 active nuclear power reactors worldwide, and 71 reactors are under construction. During the nuclear age, construction was started on 305 reactors in the 1970s. Compare that to only 67 in the 2010s. These figures alone fail to tell the complete story. Take this facility, for example. This is the Hamaoka nuclear power plant in Shizuoka, Japan. It's one of 7 nuclear power plants and 18 reactors in the country that haven't produced electricity since the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that devastated the Fukushima plant. Worldwide, 33 reactors are in what nuclear industry insiders call a long-term outage, meaning they've been turned off. Meanwhile, many governments have been walking away from nuclear power altogether. Italy ended its nuclear program in 1990, Germany in 2023, and the government in Taipei in 2025. Why?
There's a sort of lack of distrust in the system as well. It goes back to the nuclear bomb. We've all seen images of what that did. Cancer is something that people in most societies fear because it's sort of invisible disease, and often the nuclear industry can be very insular and very non-transparent.
It's also a question of political will. A nuclear power plant takes 10 to 20 years to build, from design to completion.
All these countries, these places, they have election cycles, so different governments, different leaders may have different approaches to nuclear power.
Disasters have eroded the public's trust in what was once heralded as the energy of the future. Today, the sites of the worst nuclear disasters remain hazardous to prolonged human habitation. But 3 Mile Island in the United States is set to resume operations. The years-long delay to restart it came to an end after a contract surfaced to serve Microsoft data centers. A medium-sized AI data center needs as much electricity as 100,000 households. And nuclear reactors in the US are coming online to feed the growing demand of AI data centers. Industry insiders say the rush to shut down plants following these disasters was too hasty.
It seemed sensible at the time, but in hindsight it was possibly an overreaction. You got public pressure and a government who didn't assess the risks properly.
Follow-up studies from the World Health Organization and United Nations found that initial fears that radiation exposure would lead to significant increases in cancer rates were overstated. Meanwhile, many nations that chose to phase out nuclear power replaced it with far dirtier energy sources. Both Japan and Germany reduced their reliance on nuclear power. A study by researchers at Columbia University found that the subsequent rise in air pollution caused, on average, an additional 28,000 deaths. A return to imported fuels such as natural gas has left both countries vulnerable to price shocks at a time of increasing political instability.
Germany was heavily reliant on Russian gas, and that goes off. They're suddenly thinking maybe we should have kept nuclear. And now the Straits of Hormuz are closed, which pushes the price of gas up. So countries like Germany are thinking again, should we restart our nuclear power stations?
It is very much based on the confidence about the resilience of continuous energy supply at reasonable prices. But the war in the Middle East has changed everything. It could be a moment of awakening for these countries.
In Japan, a nation with a sizable anti-nuclear presence, some plants are slated to resume operations.
Japan relies almost 100% on imports of coal and gas and oil. So nuclear for the last 50 years has played an important part in its energy mix. The whole nuclear legal and regulatory structure was reformed. The regulator is now strongly independent from government, politicians, and the industry. It seems to have built trust in the population.
As Europe and nearby Japan curtailed their reliance on nuclear power, China continued to build more plants. Chinese engineers now have the capacity to simultaneously build as many as 50 new nuclear reactors. The China Nuclear Energy Association estimates that the country will become the world's largest source of nuclear energy by 2030. China is now one of the world's top producers of nuclear power plants, both at home and abroad. In 2025, out of the 52 reactors under construction worldwide, 25 were using Chinese designs, according to the International Energy Agency.
China is already well on track to surpass the US, if it hasn't already done so, in terms of total installed capacity and those capacity in the construction and planning pipeline. China already has its own Hualong reactors, and it's very keen to export its technologies, even its reactors, overseas. There will be profound ramifications for other oil-producing, oil-exporting countries in the Middle East and South America. And it will fundamentally change the global energy market, pricing, the demand and the supply dynamics.
As of April 2026, China had 64 nuclear reactors in operation and 37 more under construction. That accounts for more than half of all reactors currently being built globally. China's overseas investment in nuclear power in countries like Pakistan and Argentina reached 161 billion yen in 2025. But can this new nuclear energy boom reach the heights of the first nuclear age? Experts say that's unlikely. Today's world has more alternative sources of energy, and investments in oil and gas continue despite the climate risks.
We'll never go back to where we were in the late 1960s, early 1970s, when they were starting to construct 20 to 30 reactors a year. That was sort of peak nuclear. But there's one other thing to keep a lookout for, and that is the development and deployment of small modular reactors. These are particularly useful in isolated communities with weak transmission grids, and also data centers in the US, for example. Again, we're on the edge of a possible nuclear age.